everyone, my name is Summer Hassan, and I focus on the blurred lines of sex work and what decriminalization of sex work in this country would do to human sex trafficking. I had attended the Arizona Council meeting of sex trafficking where I learned that 6% of sex workers are in it because they want to be in it. That means that up to 90% can be victims of sex trafficking. I interviewed 2 individuals along my way. One of them was a victim of sex trafficking, and another of them was a sex worker. The victim of sex trafficking had explained to me her story of how she became a victim of sex trafficking through OnlyFans. She became vulnerable on the platform and eventually ended up selling her body to one guy who convinced her to sell her body to a friend, and eventually just spiraled out into a business, and he had become her long-term pimp. The other victim that I had interviewed, which was not a victim, she was a sex worker. She loves the industry, and she's pleading that they legalize sex work in this country. When observing the 3 solutions, I thought of with sites such as OnlyFans being regulated and having a 24/7 counselor on board for vulnerable individuals who can possibly fall victim to sex trafficking. I also thought of legalization of sex work. Now, this one wasn't one that I was super sure of even observing, but due to my interview with Ms. Garcia, I thought I would give it a shot. But then I reviewed the article by Harvard Law, and they conducted a study, and they reported that countries with legalization and prostitution are associated with higher human trafficking inflows than countries where prostitution is prohibited. On average, countries where legalized prostitution report a greater incidence of human trafficking inflows. So immediately, I thought this would not have been a good idea, just because the outcome ultimately would substantially increase human sex trafficking, which proved my initial point. Lastly, I thought of decriminalization and creating a public nonprofit partnership to help victims of sex trafficking to find stability, security, and safety. This way we're accommodating for both people like Ms. Heron and Ms. Garcia, who there are victims of sex trafficking, but then there are sex workers that are in the industry who want to remain in the industry but don't want to be criminals written down in the system. So I felt that this would have been the best solution. So this was my chosen solution, was to create a public nonprofit partnership to decriminalize sex work in America to protect those who are in the system and that don't want to be known as criminals.